Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. Welcome back to another live show. And this is, let's see, which episode is this? This is episode 118. So thanks everyone for your loyal and continued viewership. Jake, congrats man, first person in this live show tonight. And just for that, I will give you a celebratory sound of the super chat. And for everyone else, this is the sound of the super chat. So if you choose to super chat, you can do that. There's a little super chat icon down in the chat section. But since Jake's here, you know, he's the first one here, I'm just going to celebrate and say, hey. Okay, so welcome aboard, everyone. Got a few things in progress. Actually, I've got some videos uploading. One of the videos, and actually this video is live, and I wanted to point this out. You know, just because you need a telephoto lens, you know, something with a lot of reach for bears and other wildlife, doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have something that's, you know, very large and not manageable from a size and weight perspective. So what I've got inside of this, actually phenomenal, and it's ticked all the boxes that I was trying to tick as far as performance. And not just performance, but also overall portability. And when you're walking around, when you're backpacking like I am, you've got and I've got a video up for this. This is the Sigma case video I posted, but I'm going to talk about it during this. So I was looking for something that would be small and lightweight, but would, you know, better protect the lens while it's not in use. And I ordered a previous lens case that I was going to use for the Sigma 100 to 400 millimeter lens, and the previous case that I ordered, it was too big. I mean, it was massive. And you know, you're thinking about this, my intended use case, I need a 100 to 400 millimeter lens for bears out in the wilderness. But when I'm hiking, when I'm backpacking, you know, I'm not going to have a 100 to 400 millimeter lens on my camera. I'm going to have a 24 to 70. So what this enables me to do, this right here, this very nice webbing on the back, I could attach it to the exterior of my pack if I wanted to. I could put it on my belt. I could just drop this in my backpack. But what's so nice, this thing unzips. And then, I mean, look at that. I mean, you're talking about the slimmest case that I could possibly find to fit this lens. And you can see it's kind of tight because, I mean, I didn't leave a lot of room. So to get it out, I've got to push gently, and then this part here, you know, get it to start coming out. Let's see. I mean, it's tight, but I wanted that because I didn't want the extra size and the extra, you know, and the extra bulk. So see, there it is. Oh, and you know what happened? My little lens hood, I twisted it when I pulled it out, and the lens hood stayed in here, but no problem. It'll come out. So, you know, just demonstrating this, I mean, this just barely fits in this case, man. And see, my lens hood, see, look at that. I mean, you're talking about if you want the snuggest fit possible for your Sigma 100 to 400 millimeter. There it is. See, it's out. Now, if you don't have the lens hood, and obviously the lens hood, the way I had it on like this. So I didn't have it on. Obviously, it wouldn't fit if you had it mounted to, you know, how you would be using the lens hood, because that would be, obviously, that would be too tall for this lens case. But when you twist it around, you can see it just perfectly fits. So this case, again, it's nothing fancy, and you can find it. You can find the video that I posted on my YouTube channel, and then also website IrixGuy.com. But it was just a really affordable, you know, case that I can use in conjunction with this. Now, if I don't have the lens hood on, it very easily goes in and out. See, without the lens hood, boom, it's in. And then to take it out, no problem. But with the lens hood, still works. But you need to, with the lens hood with this, you need to put the lens part facing down and then gently pull, because this is a flexible type lens case material. Gently pull just enough to get that started, and then bam, there you go. So see, now you've got, this is a 100 to 400 millimeter lens that I can more confidently carry around, on a backpack when I'm backpacking, or just to keep it, stored well while it's in the studio. I wouldn't drop this and I wouldn't expose this to water, but it's, it does provide peace of mind, and it's a better way to store your lens while it's not in use. So I'm super stoked about that. And that was a good discovery. I got my H2O. Been doing a lot of working out. I put together a weight bench, a dumbbell bench, and that video, my assembly video, was almost an hour in duration. And one might realize that a 1 hour duration 4K video is going to take a long time to upload. So it may be tomorrow. I've already uploaded it overnight, and that's how massive this video is. It's still just 62% uploaded, but that's the step-by-step assembly of a dumbbell bench. Dumbbell bench. And I performed my due diligence. I was looking for a dumbbell bench that's affordable yet high quality, and I was able to. There's not a lot to choose from. There's a lot to choose from, but there's not a lot that are both affordable and high quality. But this one was, and it only took me about an hour to assemble because, I want to make sure everything was, done 100% correct. Jake says, was watching Avengers Endgame and Age of Ultron Final Battle Carnage counts before I came on. And Carnage counts from Avengers Infinity War 2. Very cool. I've also been watching videos on all Marvel Universe weapons from Avengers and others. Stingray Aerial Solutions says, Sigma fit on the Sony A7 III, or do you need a mount adapter? No, for this one, dude. This one, this is the one that just came out, and let me get a link here. Let me get a link for y'all. This is the one that, let me get a link to this video. That way y'all can have a link. Let's see. So this is the Sigma 100 to 400 that just came out. This Sigma 100 to 400 has a native Sony E-mount. So this is a full frame lens. When I attach it to my, and you asked about the A7 III, it'll attach to the A7 III natively. If you're in full frame mode, this is 100 to 400 millimeter. If you kick your A7 III into APS-C mode, I'd have to look at the equivalent, but it creates a more, zoomed look if you go into APS-C mode. But in full frame, you're going to get 100 to 400 millimeter out of this. APS-C, I'll have to look that up and tell you. I think off the top of my head, maybe it's around 600 millimeter in APS-C. I'd have to do the calculation. I'm kind of dumb with calculations, so I'm not even going to deal with that while we're on the air. But yeah, it's a native mount. Layla says, how much does the camera cost? Well, it depends on which one. The one that I'm using, the one I'm using right now is a Sony A7R4. So it's overkill for a live stream. This camera is more for, professional photography, but it also does really high quality video. So you can find it on my website. Just go to IrixGuy.com. You can find the current pricing and bundles for the A7 IV. Honestly, for a lot of scenarios, unless you're doing a lot of photography with it as well, the A7R4 is probably overkill. Check out my video on the, and actually Stingray mentioned it, the A7 III. Check out my A7 III video. But yeah, Stingray, it is sweet. This is native Sony E-mount. So now the one thing that I did ask, and I contacted Sigma, and I said, do y'all have a teleconverter available for the for this Sigma 100 to 400 millimeter? Because if you get the Sony G Master is super expensive, the 100 to 400 millimeter. But with the G Master, you can use a 2X or I think a 1.4X teleconverter, and I've used that with the G Master. So I did the 2X, and instead of having 400 millimeter zoom in full frame, I kicked it up to 800 millimeter zoom in full frame, which was really nice. So I asked Sigma if they had a teleconverter now, if they had plans to create a teleconverter for the Sony E-mount, and not to misquote their response, but it was something along the lines of maybe some sort of patent or something like that. So hopefully that means it maybe will happen. Maybe they can find a way to make it happen. But if not, I did ask. Now I said, what about using, because it's not advertised as being compatible, but I said, what about using the Sony 2X teleconverter or the Sony 1.4X teleconverter with the lens? And their response, and again, I haven't tested this, but their response was along the lines of autofocus won't work. So if it actually works with the Sony teleconverter and I couldn't use autofocus, it would still be something that I would use if I needed to film something far away, because normally when I'm photographing or videoing something far away, like a bear, a lot of times a bear is going to be behind a tree or behind some branches. And when you introduce that much distance in the wilderness, inevitably there's going to be objects between your camera lens and the bear or whatever wildlife you're photographing or videoing. So, in that scenario, I think that, using manual focus would be appropriate anyway. So would I even be using autofocus for this, for my intended use case for the 100 to 400? Probably not. So with that being the case, I may pick up the 1.4X or 2.0 teleconverter, and just as a test, as a curiosity, see if it would behave in manual mode, and if the video quality and photo quality is acceptable with that. So that's a test I definitely want to perform, because I think it'd be really cool, if that did work. I mean, that's a quick way to further extend your reach. 400 millimeters is good, but 400 millimeters is not, if you want to get like that really, that shot or, video or photo of the bear that really fills the frame. And, with 400 millimeter, you're still going to be, it's going to be zoomed in. You'll be able to see the detail, but it's still not going to be optimal to really get that, awesome, professional type, nature shot. So, in that scenario, a 2X teleconverter to bump it up to 800 millimeter would be cool if it's compatible. But I mean, who knows? I mean, it's one of those things you kind of got to test, because you're dealing with Sigma, which is they created a lens that's compatible with the Sony E-mount, and then you're dealing with Sony, which makes the teleconverter, and obviously Sony would want, they would probably want to sell more of their lenses. Stingray says teleconverter will go in a G Master lens. You're right. It'll work with a few different ones. And I think, and I haven't tested it, but I think it may work with the, and that lens was physically too large for me to consider, but I think it may work with the, with the zoom lens. It's not a G Master. It's not the 100 to 400 G Master, but I think it's a 200 to 600 G. It's even physically larger than the 100 to 400 G Master, and I think the Sony teleconverter may work with that as well. It's very limited, at least as far as within the specs for the teleconverter, what it's compatible with. But I think that's one that may have been recently added to it. But that G Master 100 to 400 with the 2x teleconverter is a beast when it comes to reaching out and getting that detail from far away. Jake says, I've been stuck at home due to a bronchitis flare-up. Better hope it's bronchitis, man. Better hope it's bronchitis. You don't want that that pandemic. Yep, I got you, man. Stuck, you should say. Stuck at home. Yeah, it's the best place to be if you're sick, man. Just be at home and stay away from people, man. Look at that. Yeah, but I mean, that's actually incredible that this is a 100 to 400 millimeter lens, and it's this easy, this portable. I mean, and this little lens case that I was talking about, it comes with this little carabiner hook. I don't know if I'd use that, but it's got a loop right there too, so you could loop it. And then, it's got the, if you want to put this on the belt or put it on the outside of a pack or whatever. Stingray says, good ideas. I will have to check those out more. Yeah, man. I mean, it's the thing I like about this Sigma is, not just the size and weight, but as far as the image quality has been great. And I hadn't got any really cool photos yet, but the ones that I was playing with, I did get, where I got the defocus background, the bokeh. It was really good. The bokeh from this lens looks really good. It's not something a lot of people would, if they don't like bokeh, they would say that bokeh looks distracting. You don't want an out of focus background that distracts from the from the subject. Whether it's a bear or a mongoose or whatever. You don't want bokeh that's distracting, and that's one thing I like about this. It's got a different look than the G Master bokeh. G Master's kind of circular balls. Zeiss Batis is kind of a cat's eye look. This is more like a watercolor type look, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And again, I'm not a professional photographer or videographer. I'm just putting it into my own words. Stingray says, no Rona. Good luck, Jake. Get some rest. Yeah, no doubt. Stingray says, attach it to your backpack. Yeah, that's what I want to do, is have it on the outside of the pack, because, if you see a bear, you're going to want to quickly get your good lens on so you can get a photo or a video. And again, when I'm walking around, I'm walking around with this 24 to 70, because 24 to 70 is just kind of the ideal focal length. You get the 24 on the wide for, landscape type shots. You get the 70 for more, tight shots. So it's kind of nice. And Jake says, I can still get through my life. I'm a tough guy. A little flare-up won't stop him. Jake says, well, it's my supper time. I'm going to take off. No doubt, man. Go eat. You can't miss food for this. You need to go eat. Go eat, man. Get some rest. Get over that bronchitis. And thanks for tuning in, dude. Let's see. Stingray says, I love the bokeh look. Yeah, bokeh, that's the funny thing, man. If you're presenting images to a client, not just images, but videos, if you're presenting, your captures to a client, the funny thing about it is, when you're dealing with a customer that is not, savvy when it comes to photography or videography, that's one of the things that they often, one of the most generic things you'll hear from a customer is, oh man, that looks professional. And what's prompting them to say it looks professional, more than likely, it's probably the bokeh, the defocus background. Because when they see that, and then they see one of their products or, one of their people on their team or whatever, whatever the subject matter was for that shoot, when they see that, they know it's real because it's their stuff and it's, and or their people. So they're like, how did this guy make this look as good as it does? And the reality is, photography and videography doesn't have to be that difficult. I mean, yeah, you need decent gear to be able to get the, desired effect, to be able to get pleasing bokeh and pleasing, acceptable image quality. But once you've got that, and, once you take the time to just learn the basics of your of your camera system, you can capture some really professional quality stuff. And it's amazing, man. You know, and again, I don't I don't know. This is a weird one, but you know, one of the things, you've got these professional photographers, right? And a lot of these professional photographers, they call themselves professionals because they've been doing it for a long time. The reality is that photography in the past, you know, back before you had digital, when it was all film and this, that, and the other, they had to have a tremendous amount of skill to be able to pull off the types of images that they wanted to capture. I mean, back then, that was before video. You know, they're doing still photos. So, you know, they had to really know their stuff. You know, they had to know their lighting. They had to know their equipment. They couldn't just pull open a preview on the back of the camera because it wasn't a digital camera. You know, they had to develop the film to see what it is. So potentially, if they forgot to set a camera setting or the camera failed, they wouldn't discover it until they got their film developed. So then they've wasted all their time. They've wasted their customers' time. So, you know, at that point in time, professional photographers really were professional photographers because they had to know the stuff inside and out. The reality is with Sony, and again, I love, you know, I've used Panasonic, I've used Canon, Panasonic, Canon, and I used a Fuji for a while. But Sony's the one that I've stuck with because with this camera, and again, when I say this camera, I'm talking about any of the Sony Alpha cameras because they all behave the same way. With the Sony Alpha camera, you know, I became familiar with the menu system. I became familiar with, you know, how to set shortcuts to accomplish what I want to do. So now, you know, I know if I want to get a photo or a video with that really out of focus bokeh, you know, that shallow depth of field, I know exactly what to set the camera to, and I'm shooting in RAW for still images, so then I can take that still image, put it into Lightroom, touch it up in post. It looks like a professional photo. The reality is capturing that photo may have only taken me a few seconds. You know, I'm not the photographer or videographer that's going to go out and spend a ton of time, you know, putting on this show and you know, putting on the, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. You know, I know what I'm doing, and the camera the camera and the lens lets me cheat. And that's the reality now, and that's why a lot of old school professional photographers that actually thoroughly understood the equipment, you know, that's the lenses, the camera body, the light, everything, the distance from the subject. They had to understand all of that to pull off what today can be accomplished with someone that, you know, spends a few weeks getting to know their camera system. Once you know it, you know it. And if you don't switch to other brands, once you know your Sony menu system, as new cameras and new lenses come out, it's easy to you know, take advantage of the newer equipment and achieve even better quality. No says, okay, guys, what are we talking about? Talking about whatever you want to talk about. But we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. It just, you know, it must be appropriate for all age groups, and there shouldn't be any profanity at all because I keep this channel clean for everyone. I want to make sure that everybody's happy. Let's see. Stingray says, so many menu options on the Alpha series, still learning. Yeah, man, the Alpha, you know, the menu, and be sure to update your firmware. I'm sure you probably have, but if you haven't, update it because that'll probably change things up a bit. The shortcuts are your best friend, and actually that's awesome you said that because I want to put together a tutorial. You know, the shortcuts that I use for my Sony. Now I'm using the A7R4, but the menu system is pretty much the same with most all of the Sony Alphas. And one of the things was you know, the shortcuts that I use. I've got a shortcut for APS-C on or off. So typically I'm using full frame. But if I need to increase my zoom by switching to APS-C mode from full frame without having to change the lens, that's a good quick toggle to have. I've also got a quick toggle to format my SD cards. You know, not that I'm going to do that in the field, but before I start the shoot, you know, I can go into my quick menu and do that. I've got a shortcut for connection to my smartphone. I forget what the shortcut's called, but I can go into that, and then I can pair my Imaging Edge mobile app on my iPhone with the camera, with the A7R4. And that's nice because obviously the A7R4, the A7 III, does not have a flip-forward LCD. So if I'm out in the field and I need to do a face-on video segment, which I do quite a bit, and I don't have the film crew with me, then I want to use that, use the app as my viewfinder of sorts, so I can see if I'm properly framed, this, that, and the other. So I have a shortcut to that. Have a shortcut to, see, what else do I have in there? I really don't use that many shortcuts, but, but the things that I do to, not on the menu system, but on the camera itself. So if I'm doing a video and I want to get shallow depth of field, bokeh, defocus background, whatever you want to call it, I'll just use I'll toggle it into the video mode, and I'll switch to aperture priority mode within the video mode. And then that way I can choose, depending upon the lens, 2470 G Master, for example. If I want a shallow depth of field, I would put the aperture priority to f2.8, and then, I would zoom in to 70 millimeter and, and get the maximum defocus background that I can achieve with that lens. So that's how I do the video. Now, when I'm doing photos, full disclosure, if my emphasis upon the photo will be depth of field, I'll switch it into aperture priority mode, do the same thing, except it's just for a still photo. But most of the time, if I'm just going out, say it's like travel shots where I want to capture the environment, landscape type shots, or maybe I want to hand the camera to somebody else to take a photo and they may not know a lot about photography, I'll just kick it in auto mode, because it's really incredible the quality that you can get out of the Sony Alphas in auto mode. Now, sure, you don't, when you're shooting in auto, you don't have the ability to fine-tune everything because it's in auto, but you eliminate a lot of questions that the camera operator may have. One of the other cool things, let's see, what was it? Trying to think, I just thought of it. Not auto mode, but it was, hold on, I'll think of it here in a second. But yeah, you can go into full manual mode if you want to, and in there you can set every setting yourself. Shutter priority, that's what it was. So shutter priority would put the shutter speed as the priority. So, if I'm photographing a waterfall, flowing water, stream, whatever, that's a way to cheat and get a really professional looking photo, of a waterfall or water, give it, instead of the little drops, it makes it look like milky water. When you see a professional photo of a waterfall or a stream, it looks like that. And it's easy to do. You just go into shutter priority on your Sony Alpha, and then you change it to I usually use about 1/8 shutter speed. When I do the 1/8 shutter speed, dude, waterfalls look great. So, that's always, that's a useful shortcut. And again, your professional photographers from from pre-digital camera days, they're going to frown upon this because, they look at it as, the technology has enabled people that don't have photography skills to capture professional images, professional videos, and it just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair to them because they've invested so many hours, so many years of their life to understand how to do all of it. And, now the technology's evolved so much that, anyone with ambition can pretty much pick up a Sony Alpha camera or similar camera and go out to, get customers and, provide them with professional quality photos and or videos. And let's see, what settings do you use for focus when videoing? I wish I could. I'm filming with that. I'm doing the live stream with that camera right now, or I'd flip it around and tell you. But off the top of my head, I use autofocus continuous. Obviously, the A7R4, I've got eye autofocus, so I've got that. typically, yeah, center. Well, if I'm doing a landscape type shot, I'll do wide. But to your point, center is typically, if your subject's gonna be centered, centered's pretty much good. But again, if you're if you're doing, well, let me think of a situation here. I mean, wide typically works because you could have someone in the in the corner of the frame, and you could like they're on a beach or whatever, and you could have them in the frame, but don't not too shallow of a depth of field because you want to see the background. So in that scenario, I would use wide focus, and instead of doing like a f2.8, I may kick it up to f6 or so you can still see. So it gives a little bit of defocused background, but the background's still visible. You want that subject to pop out of the video. And let's see. No says, it's annoying having to format my SD card every time I switch between phones. I have to back it all up to my laptop first. Normally, sometimes I just get a new card. Yeah, backing up stuff, man. I tell you, and a company has done a really good job with backing up, and yeah, Stingray, mostly I just use autofocus continuous AFC. Now, mostly, but a lot of times on my lens, in the G Masters that I use, and there's that's the other hotkey that I set. I set one of the configurable buttons on the back of my camera to be the autofocus, manual focus toggle. Because a lot of times what I'll find that I do is I will focus upon the subject, then I'll push either the toggle on my lens, because I've got an AF, MF button on my lens, or the button that I've assigned on the back of the camera to go from autofocus to manual focus. So if somebody's standing there talking and they're not moving around, I'm just going to lock it into manual focus. That way I don't have, not that the A7 III or the A7 IV seems to focus hunt. The older models, Sony Alphas, tended to hunt for focus a lot, but if you got something that's going to be, somebody sitting down, an interview type thing, if they're not moving around, hit that autofocus, manual focus toggle and film while you're in manual focus. It's just going to give you the best results. But establish the autofocus to lock in the focus, and then kick to manual. And then that way, if something else potentially entered the frame, it shouldn't take the subject out of focus, because at that point it would be manual focus instead of autofocus. But yeah, I've always hated that too, migrating among devices. And if you're an Apple person or you're not, and I understand a lot of people aren't, but that's one thing I like about Apple. If I upgrade my Apple laptop, the upgrade process is super streamlined. For the Apple phones, for the iPhones, it's super cool now, because you can just, I can do an iCloud backup, so it backs up the iPhone to the internet, and then when I get the new phone and plug it in, well, the first thing I do from the new iPhone is restore from iCloud, so I don't have to deal with, deal with the manual process. So that's been nice. Yeah, Stingray, I appreciate it, man. I forget who taught me that, but it was, when they did, they're like, yeah, because, and the other thing, if you didn't want to do that to establish your manual focus, what you could also do, and something I recommend using, and I usually use yellow, because yellow seems to stand out, at least from the stuff that I'm videoing, but I'll enable the focus peaking. And what the focus peaking will do, if you haven't turned on focus peaking in your Sony Alpha, if you go into manual focus mode, it's going to show whatever color. I think they've got yellow. I think it's yellow, red, and white to choose from. Again, I use yellow. But it'll, as you focus, while you're in manual focus, those colors that are on, whatever part of the, and again, this is a confusing part about focus. A lot of people think that, focus is actually locking onto something. The reality is that focus is a distance thing. So what I would recommend doing is just lining up some beer cans. Put one beer can 3 feet in front of your camera. Put the next beer can 9 feet in front of the camera. And then put the other one, say, 12 feet. And go into manual focus with focus peaking, and you'll see as you use the focus ring on your lens and point it towards a can, as you focus, then that yellow or whatever color you set for focus peaking, it's going to be pronounced on that object. So that'll tell you that, that object is in peak focus. In that scenario where you've got 3 objects in front of a camera that are similar, when you've got those 3 objects, autofocus, if you're using autofocus, it's probably just going to autofocus the entire frame, everything in that situation. But if you wanted to have, say, your only concern was the object in the middle, in that example, beer cans out in front of you, if you wanted to get beer can 2 out of 3 in peak focus, that would be a situation where you would want to use manual focus. So even if you did that autofocus trick, which is going to work well if you've got a subject face on video for an interview, that type of thing, that's going to work well for that. But in this scenario, you would almost have to switch to manual focus and, use that focus peaking to get that, that beer can of your choosing in peak focus. So there's a lot of uses. And another use case where you wouldn't want to use autofocus and then switch to manual, you just want to use manual focus only, is, say, for example, there's a fence in front of you. There's a fence 3 feet in front of your camera lens, right? And, it's a chain link fence. It's got the little pieces of metal, and you can see through the fence, but you also see the fence. If you're in autofocus and you snap a photo, it may focus on the fence. That's probably what it's going to do. But you don't want to focus upon the fence. There's an object, 30 yards away. So what you would do in that scenario, you would already be in manual focus, and you would focus, looking through the fence because there's holes in the chain link fence, but you would use manual focus and use your focus peaking to get whatever object that is 30 yards away in peak focus. So you'll still see the chain link fence in the foreground, but in that scenario, because you're using manual focus, the fence will be out of focus, the fence that's a few feet from your camera lens, and then the object that's 30 yards away in the field will be in peak focus because you use manual focus to get that object in peak focus. Once you play around with it, these and again, this isn't isolated to Sony Alpha. This is just photography and videography in general. But, once you grasp all of that and set up all of these training exercises and go out and that's something I want to do in future videos is do some of these, perform some of these tests in the field so you can see in the wild, how this works. Because once you see how it works, then when you're hiking or doing whatever you're doing and the opportunity to snap a video and or capture a video comes up, you will know with your camera, okay, if it's a waterfall, and again, this is assuming you're not a manual focus user. I mean, a manual mode user. Don't confuse manual mode with manual focus. But, if you see a waterfall, yeah, okay, I'll go to shutter speed. I'll go to about 1/8 shutter speed. And I'm going to get I ought to be able to get a good image with this Sony Alpha. There's a fence. You got to get something through the fence. Well, you need to go into manual focus, and it'll probably be good if you use focus peaking to see if you're able to, if you're able to get that in peak focus through the fence. Stingray says, can you do a shortcut for focus peaking to get in and then out fast? That's a good question. I wonder, yeah, and again, I can't take my camera off, but I can answer that because I remember. So when you browse through your menus where you find to turn focus peaking on and off, I forget what it's called. It may just be called focus peaking, but when you get to where that is to turn, there's a turn on and off focus peaking, and then there's the select the color of the focus peaking. you can create a shortcut in your custom menu on your Sony. Just, find that focus peaking, find what it's entitled, and then go to your Sony custom menu and add, but, you'll have to scroll through a long list, but find that verbiage and add it, and that'll let you turn focus peaking on or off. Now, again, the way I've got focus peaking set up, I've always got it on. If I go into manual focus, focus peaking is always on. If I'm in autofocus, it's not. But if you wanted to toggle it on and off while you're in manual focus, yeah, just add that link or shortcut, whatever you want to call it, to your Sony a7 III's custom menu, and that would be a way to accomplish that. So the custom menu is a feature in some. Well, it wasn't present in a lot of the older Sony firmwares and the older Sony Alpha cameras. And that feature has been super useful because you're able to create shortcuts to the things that matter the most for you, as far as how you use your Sony. Because every photographer, every videographer is different, and a lot of people, the way that I use the Sony Alpha, and I use it the way I do because I can. Mike, welcome aboard, man. Welcome aboard. So yeah, dude, play with that focus peaking because that's super cool. But it's there's so much you can do with these cameras, and they're again, you can use manual mode. You can put your Sony Alpha, your A7 III, your A7 R3, your A7 R4, kick it into full manual mode if you choose to do so, and you can have total control over that camera. And that's probably the mode that a lot of people, a lot of these old school professional photographers, professional videographers that know everything by being fully manual, that's probably where they're going to go. They're going to set their camera to full manual mode and not do anything else, which is perfectly fine. But, for me, having used Sony for, I started with the RX100, the RX10, the cameras that had lenses permanently attached. But then I segued into the Sony Alphas. And dude, since you do that, as soon as you do that, then it's just a matter of, working to learn the stuff inside and out. And dude, these things are powerful. You can get, if you've got the right subject matter, if you've got the right customers, these cameras, man, it is amazing the amount of business that you can drum up because people just like the image quality and they just like the video quality as well. So, if you're into photography and or videography professionally, never let your customers know how simple this is. It's not simple. You got to learn it, whether you're using these Sony modes that make it easier, like the aperture priority and shutter speed and shutter priority and those sorts of things. Don't let your customers know how easy it is for you, because when they see the images and the videos, they're going to be like, wow, this is professional, because it is professional. So the reality is that product in that customer's hand, whether it was captured using aperture priority mode or captured using full manual mode, the image or the video is potentially identical. The customer doesn't care. They just want that professional image or that professional video. So for that reason, leveraging Sony Alphas for photography and or videography business is a smart move. If you're comfortable with the equipment, and again, I don't like to bump around because I like to get all my lenses for a particular, camera body, and I've stuck, Sony E-mount is where I'm staying, because I don't want to have a bunch of different camera bodies, a bunch of different lens brands. It gets expensive, and then you never really master a piece of equipment because you're hopping among the various brands, and every brand's different. The way the menu system is, the way that the camera behaves, this, that, and the other. So But yeah, never let your customer know how easy it is. Just let them ooh and ah over the image quality and the video quality. And that is something that will, if professional old school photographers, get wind of your techniques, they'll criticize you because justifiably so. They're upset because they became involved with photography and videography before everything was so dumbed down. But now, because of the new tools, you can get as good or better results cheating, taking the shortcuts. And I don't look at it as cheating. An old school photographer will look at it as cheating because you didn't have to learn all the technology inside and out to achieve the professional results, and that's why they're irritated. But I don't look at it as cheating. I look at it as, time saved. If you can accomplish the task using a tool that lets you take shortcuts and still achieve as good or better quality, that makes sense from a time perspective. Time is money. So, but, as you use those shortcuts, inevitably you're going to learn all of the intricacies of photography and videography. So it's not like you're just totally cheating. You're taking shortcuts to save time and to get those products in the customer's hands more quickly, but you'll still understand it. But yeah, that's a Sony rant. I really love Sony Alpha, and everybody out there that uses Sony, like Stingray, it's yeah, dude, time is money. I mean, why waste time? If you can get, that's one of the personality types that irritates me more than anything. Well, I mean, the lazy personality type, I think a lazy person would irritate pretty much anybody. But the thing that irritates me even more than a lazy person is a person that doesn't know how to manage their time. So whether it's intentional or not, often what that personality type will do is that they will stretch out a task. So something that could be very quick, they stretch it out into multiple hours. I can't stand that. I think there's a lot of value in efficiency. And again, that's why I like the Sony Alpha, because you got a good tool, you know how to use it, you get the results you want, and there's not all of this, time wasted that could be spent doing other things, man. So yeah, it's let's see, what else do we have going on here? I'm checking my notes. That was a long-winded Sony rant, man, but Sony is so cool. Sony Alpha. But yeah, I've got this dumbbell bench, and that assembly video will be coming up. It's probably, at this rate, it's probably going to be tomorrow, because it's still uploading. But what's remarkable, that video has been uploading during the entire live show, and we haven't seen any buffering. At least I'm not showing buffering in the ATEM equipment here, so that is pretty cool. Stingray says, we just got a gimbal for it and have been playing with that. Not a Ronin, but Weeble S is pretty good. Very cool. That was a great rant. Oh, hey, thanks, man. Yeah, speaking of that, and I haven't looked at the Weeble. I use the Ronin S, and admittedly, that's one of the few products from DJI that I've been deeply disappointed with. I never could get it to, even though it seemed like it was somewhat balanced, it never really was that balanced. I never could make it work right. And with the, with that, I had to use instead of plugging in a USB-C cable or micro USB, it had to use that little goofy IR thing to sit in front of the camera for the controls, and it just wasn't a good experience. So is the Weeble, let's see, I'm gonna look that one up right now. Does it achieve really good smooth video? And does it stay level? I guess would be the biggest. Let's see, I'm pulling that up. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a really cool. That's the Zhiyun or Zhiyun, how you pronounce it. Cool, and it's got integrate. It's got the integrated like tripod type feet. Very cool. So how do you plug? So you put your A7 III on the Weeble, but does a cable from it? Does it have like a USB cable that plugs into the camera? Does it use that? Does it use the little infrared sensor, or how does it? It connects straight to the Sony, so it plugs in. It plugs in with the USB, USB-C or a micro USB. That looks super cool. 2600 milliamp batteries. Battery runtime 12 to 14 hours. Wow. It is cool. Oh yeah, I see it. I see it there in the photo. It's got the actual. It's got a Sony in the photo, and it's got the cable plugging directly into it. Yeah, that's huge, man. Because that that Ronin S. I mean, I hate to say it, but the Ronin S was just not a an enjoyable experience at all. Yeah, man, it's amazing. It's amazing with a gimbal. I mean, the IBIS, the in-body image stabilization on a Sony is decent, but you're never going to get gimbal type stability. I mean, that's so much better. It says it has a Stingray says it has a transmitter on the bottom. Very, very cool. I had to check one of those out. Um, Thinking about, I see a lot of times when I'm doing like hiking or something like that, I like to have a GoPro or an Osmo Action on me. Because those are software stabilized, which isn't as good as a gimbal, but at least it's just an easy thing to slap on. Oh, you can move. He says with this Stingray says with this gimbal, you can move the camera remotely just from the phone. That's very, very cool. I think we're gonna check one of those out because once you shoot. Here's the thing: once you shoot with the Sony Alpha, then if you use an action camera like a GoPro or an Osmo Action, I mean you can get pretty good video quality, but it's never going to look as good, not anywhere close to as good as the Sony Alpha. So for that reason, I may pick up actually that one you just mentioned, the Weeble S. Pick that up for hiking, and then that way I've got the gimbal stabilized hiking footage, but I'm filming it with the same Sony A7R4 as I will be the other footage. So it'll, there's nothing wrong with a video project that utilizes multiple cameras, but if you can use the same camera for the entire project, it's always, from my experience, it always seems to be a better finished product when you export the video and upload it to YouTube. Yeah, that's so I was looking at this right here. Tell you, I was glad I got the weight bench that I got for dumbbells because that thing was, let's see. It was hard to find one that was good quality. And that video is only 72% uploaded, so yeah, it won't be up today. That is crazy, man, how big. But that's, I literally filmed an hour long in 4K, and that was a cool thing, man. With the A7R4, I mean, I'm still filming, and it's like, I think it was like maybe 58 minutes continuously, no overheating, no stop after 29 minutes or whatever. I mean, it was still, and yeah, Stingray said link in my description. Yep. Got to toss out those affiliate links for sure, man. But yeah, it's But yeah, if I pick one up, I will be putting a link in the video description. Yeah, that's thing is still uploading 72%. Yeah, it was recording 58 minutes or so continuously. So, that's cool. You can capture, the Sony Alpha, because in the past you would have a hard stop. I think it was 29 minutes in 4K, and for most situations that was fine. But I think and it's been a while since I used it. I think the A7R2, at least with the firmware then, I think it had a 29-minute hard stop, and it was just annoying because you had, if you're recording something and then you forget to go hit record again, then you're in trouble. But yeah, I filmed that entire assembly process of the bench. And I know that sounds crazy to be talking about a video of putting together a workout bench, but I couldn't find a single video on YouTube showing the assembly of this particular bench. And it's honestly, man, when you see the video and then you see the price of the bench, you're gonna be like, man, that can't be good. I mean, but it is, and that's a cool thing. So I was gonna spend if I'd gone with the Bowflex one, it was on back order, and that's why I had to get something else. If I'd gone with it, I think that one would have been at least 2 times the price. So it just, it didn't make financial sense to do that. Sometimes, some items it's worth spending the extra, but I mean, certain things, unless there's a huge quality or feature difference, it's just throwing money away. I mean, that's stupid. So, let's see. Yeah, so that's going to upload for a while. Not much else exciting going on right now. Gonna get some more drone videos up, and of course the bear videos. And let's see, what else? Okay, this right here. There's that. That's what I was looking for. Oops. It's funny that I forgot to mute my volume. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so on that note, I appreciate everyone tuning in. We've been going for about an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But stay tuned for an upcoming live show. And again, if you'd like to be a guest, either by way of phone call to the United States or Skype, Skype probably works pretty much anywhere, drop me a message, facebook.com/IrixGuy, and you can be a guest be considered to be a guest on an upcoming live show. So thanks, everyone, for your viewership. Be safe. And most importantly, wash your hands, man. Wash your hands. Hey, y'all. IrixGuy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.